Hello, everybody. Good morning and welcome along to Sunrise Daily. I'm Chamberlain Uso.
I'm Kayode Okikiolu.
It's a beautiful Wednesday morning. I'm Ayo Makinde. We shouldn't always slip out that beautiful part of it.
It's good you took the cue.
Okay. Well, yes, indeed. Of course, you know that the country is keeping tabs with what is going on in different parts of the country. And the dailies are reflecting that much as they have done, as a lot of people have done, actually. So now waiting to see what is done to ensure that that doesn't happen again. But take a look at The Guardian. We'll start from there this morning. Still talking about Twitter. FG talks tough. Insists Twitter ban is indefinite. Okay, so at some point, they said it was temporary. At some point, now it's back to indefinite. And then let me even take you through the riders, guys, so you can see for yourself what some of them are saying. Front page of The Guardian here today. So, FG talks tough, insists Twitter ban is indefinite. Malami logs into suspended site to deactivate account. That's what you see here. So what is the implication of that? If one has logged into it. Gbajabiamila orders probe into propriety of ban. It's the Guardian we're talking about this morning today, guys. So, and then you see Senate silent as PDP reps stage walkout, insist on reversal. CSOs defy FG order, say it will continue Twitter use. Serap takes Buhari to ECOWAS court over suspension. APC urges talented Nigerians to develop homegrown alternatives. Wow. So there you go.
Well, of course, after all, China has WeChat. So,
is there any basis of comparison with that now? Are we now?
I mean, going through those riders, really, there are a lot of...
oh, boy.
I mean, from the... I know there was a lot of talk yesterday saying that the Attorney General said to have deactivated his Twitter account. And you know that for you to deactivate your Twitter account, you probably have to log in. You most likely have to log in to Twitter.
And if you have to log in, when it's been, suspended?
It's suspended. So
how'd you log in?
Because, I mean, that IP has been suspended, literally. So even if you're going to Twitter's website, not the Twitter handles, right? Not Twitter as in Twitter where you tweet. I mean, Twitter's website, maybe to check the policies and all that. You can't even check that. So you wonder how this happened. But
on Twitter, you know, one of the things that a number of people would be guessing is, okay, how could that have happened?
On Twitter?
I'm just wondering
how did they get on guess on Twitter if they can't get to Twitter?
I mean, you just read it now. You know how The Guardian is saying that. I mean,
yeah, Malami logs into suspended site to a deactivate account.
How did that happen?
That's the rider here.
How did that happen?
And you know also the wordings or the confusion really. So the suspension announcement started from has been indefinitely suspended.
Yep.
Then a few days after we saw that statement, some clarification from the president. So don't forget the first one was from the Ministry of Information. Then the clarification in some sense was from the president saying it's a temporary ban. And then we heard from the Foreign Affairs Minister saying, well, the condition is responsible use. And from his office again, we heard, well, he didn't give a condition. And then we went back to indefinite now. So it's been, I mean, it brings to mind what the SAN said yesterday, that he's not sure that that everybody in government at this point is on the same page regarding this.
So there you go. It is a big one you see here, and it may be here for a while. If now you hear saying it's indefinite. So what exactly is the policy? It isn't even a policy, an order, a decision.
Yeah.
Well, I guess they wanted to just get into the daily and see, perhaps, the question that many are asking, how did he log into the suspended site to deactivate account? So there you go. Especially if he's in the country. Okay.
Well, that's also possible. It could be out of the country. Could have been done out of the country.
No, we're not being hypothetical
Could.
right now. Is he out of the country?
Oh, well, don't forget this. I think it was the memo by the NBC saying that, you know, patronage of Twitter is
Unpatriotic.
unpatriotic. So pretty much.
But the is it advice or order from the NBC is deinstall the.
So how do you deinstall if everything is
No, you can
blocked?
deinstall without necessarily signing in. You can remove the thing from your phone or from your device without necessarily signing in.
Or isn't that another level? Don't you need a proper law to back that up?
To back removing an app from your phone?
You asking me to deinstall an app from my phone?
Okay, but that's the order the NBC gave.
Okay. So if I order you to jump through that roof right now, fall your face to the ground,
Well, you have to be my regulator to do that.
a regulator of your life, right?
Yeah, well,
Just trying to see the typology of what is at stake. I mean, we heard lawyers speak about this yesterday.
Absolutely.
And there was a point of argument on the floor of the House, which we'll come to much later. But you know, above this lead story too, just look at that, what you see on the right-hand side. I can't guarantee security in Imo, says Uzodinma. You know, sometimes when you hear these things, you wonder, but this is the primary purpose for which they were elected. And if they campaign vigorously, saying, and then this. How does it settle? Well, I guess people should read that and see what context, but this sends a lot of messages
again,
to investors, to everyone.
The critical word you use there is context, because you know some other news. When we carried that story, we quoted him as saying, "I alone cannot secure Imo." So maybe he's asking for cooperation of the people. But then, as you said, perhaps we should take a look at the story on the inside.
Yeah, but were these words used? So if they were used in whatever context, if these words were used, it's a signal. And then at the bottom strip, apathy, distrust, hamper Anchor Borrowers Program, says North Central Farmers, as CBN accuses farmers of loan default. FCT farmers lament lack of support. Just rice farmers, CBN say program successful. We're still repaying loans guaranteed by former government. Kogi farmers, CBN disagree over price inflation. Wow. It just goes on and on. That's the Guardian today.
Well, for the Vanguard, the lead story is Twitter as well. Lai Mohammed on defiance of Twitter ban. Malami will decide prosecution of Adeboye, Kumuyi, others. See page 5, just right next to that. But let me give you the riders. Says there will be no human rights if Nigeria is on fire. Reps summon Lai Mohammed over Twitter suspension. PDP reps stage walkout as Gbajabiamila overrules demand. Will continue to tweet, PDP reps. Dare Malami to arrest them. Will meet in court. Dow Communications tell NBC. Sarah drags Buhari before ECOWAS court over Twitter ban in Nigeria. Yes, these writers might seem a lot, but believe me, it doesn't even capture like maybe 10% of the responses, major responses, but hopefully page 5 should give you more on that one.
I guess our emails will be buzzing much later today.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
What do people think of all this?
They're still buzzing right now.
Yeah.
But it's good to hear, and to read from people what they really think. And of course, we'll be going through that much later. You see this FG Mole's death penalty for rail track vandals. It's on page 9. I remember the minister speaking about vandalism 2 days ago, how much has happened, or how many incidents of vandalism across the different regions. So that's a big one. But death penalty.
Well, I don't know. Is that addressing the root cause or the symptom? If you apply the death penalty?
He mentioned some regions in the north recording most of these incidents. So
yeah, but already we have death penalty for certain crimes in this country, and governors are not signing the death warrant.
Yeah.
Now, you see more than death penalty. And in those areas where we've got death penalty, has it deterred anyone sufficiently from those kind of crimes?
Why do people go into it? I think that's one of the questions that one wants to ask. Why do people do that? Poverty, unemployment, hunger, and all those things. Are we doing anything about those? I think even top security chiefs have also said that we should explore what they call non-kinetic
You know, there's always that danger or that tricky part, the thin line between, you know, finding out why and rationalizing crimes.
No, there is no
quite tricky.
there is no such thing as rationalizing crime. But for instance, even in our correctional facilities, are there corrections such that when the person comes out back into society, the person is actually integrated or reintegrated?
Did we even use appropriate technology for that real? There are many questions actually. All right. Well,
Absolutely. Let me take this one more from the front page quickly. Halts extrajudicial killings in Southeast now. That's coming from church leaders. More details on page 7. And there's sports stories for you. Super Eagles hold Cameroon in rematch. And, you know, I actually wanted to check the trends of that match on Twitter, because I couldn't really sit down to watch it. And
But there is no way you could have been able to do that on Twitter.
even if I could count how many times I wanted to access information via Twitter, and I've hit that roadblock. That's Vanguard for you.
oh boy.
Nigerian News Direct is interested in something completely different. Perhaps one can say some good news. NLNG generates $110 billion in 22 years. That's according to the MD. Stories on page 16. And you'll find all the stories on the inside pages. Right above the nameplate, Nigeria economy. World Bank forecasts 1.8% growth in 2021. Question we want to ask is, with all that's going on, is that still it? Food cattle dealers threaten nationwide strike. Let me say that again, because I don't think you guys heard it. Food cattle dealers threaten nationwide strike.
We heard it. Okay. God bless you. Thank you.
And an agriculturist responds, an empty threat by political farmers.
Oh, political farmers.
I didn't know there was such a thing.
Wow.
That's the Nigerian News Direct this morning.
Take a look at Nigerian Tribune then. Reps to probe legality of government's ban on Twitter. Tell IGP to go after perpetrators of Igongon killings. Serap, 176 Nigerians take Buhari government to ECOWAS court. So, there you go. Oh dear. And then you see the similar matter just above that list story. Igongon killings. Mayhem will be the last of such. Makinde wants FG to allow Amotekun operatives bear AK-47, other sophisticated weapons. Security agencies got advance notice but did nothing. Falana alleges. Wow.
But you heard Mr. Oshini also say that they took action. You know, that the most that they could do was to at least arm the people with the information, and that's why they, whatever it was that happened wasn't that serious. But he also said, when we asked him, didn't we do anything about this? He said, you can't really, you know, be completely absolute about the whole thing. But
Well, I guess you need to read page 26 and find out what it means if they say they did nothing. And then they're still talking about this constitutional review, why we should adopt 1963 constitution. So it's right there for you. And then you cannot forget, you can check out the back page. Nigeria, Cameroon ended goalless.
Oh, yes.
0-0.
First was 1-0, now 0-0.
That's Tribune.
Well, I mean, it wasn't a competitive match per se, so we can let this slide, you know. It was a friendly. Anyway, let's take a look at the big print on the blueprint this morning. And you know, it's rather interesting that Twitter is trending not on Twitter, but on newspaper. So talk about new media trending on traditional media. What do you know? Twitter ban controversy. Serap, 176 concerned Nigerians head to ECOWAS court. Want FG suspension order reversed. Violators will be punished according to law. Lai Mohammed. Reps begin investigation. Summon information minister. All that on page 6. And you see, 51 years after civil war, Moghalu seeks Truth Reconciliation Commission. I think that has been a major issue that has been brought up time and again, trying to find closure for millions of people affected by that. And just one more. I think one of the dailies had that. Northern traders threaten to cut off food supply nationwide. Alleged harassment by security agents in Southeast give 3-week ultimatum.
Is that the political farmers story that we talked about earlier? Well, look at the Leadership newspaper this morning, and the Leadership is reminding us that there is a strike still ongoing. Jusun strike. Appeal court adopts Zoom sessions as cases pile up. Our story is on page 4 of the paper this morning. SAN's lament say situation tragic. And another writer, FG asks striking workers to resume as union gives conditions, and the details on the inside pages, page 4 to be specific. And right under the picture you see there, governors comply with FG's order, shut down Twitter handles. That story is on page 7. Protester slaps French President Macron. Story is on page 6. I don't even know how that could have happened, but that's the Leadership newspaper today.
Okay, let's take a look at which one is the next one here today. Daily Times. Well, let's take a look at the front page of Daily Times this morning. We need to see that one today. Okay, so, all right, there you go. So, the Daily Times says Obasanjo, Sultan, others to meet over national crisis. So, that's what you also see right there. So, that's the big one on the front page here today. So, there you go. So, all right, that's Daily Times here today. Okay, so, all right, do we have any other one? Okay, there you go. So, that is it. We're going to look at some of the dailies here today. We are back in a moment. Don't go away.
Lawmakers in the Green Chamber resume plenary after a 2-week break due to the National Security Summit of the House and the Constitution Review public hearings. In his welcome address to the lawmakers, the Speaker responds to the Twitter ban by the federal government and states the position of the House.
It is in service of our obligations under the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria and our moral duty to the Nigerian people that the leadership of the House has mandated from today the House Committees on Communication, Justice, Information and Culture and National Security and Intelligence to immediately commence an investigation to determine, 1, the circumstances of the decision by the federal government of Nigeria to ban the operations of Twitter in Nigeria, and 2, the legal authority for the ban on the operations of Twitter in Nigeria. The committees are additionally mandated to invite the Minister of Information and Culture, Alhaji Lai Mohammed, to brief the House of Representatives on the objectives, intent, and duration of the suspension of Twitter in Nigeria, and to report to the House within 10 days.
About an hour later, when it seemed the matter had been addressed and buried, the leader of the PDP caucus raises a point of order, dissatisfied with the earlier position as stated by the Speaker. But he is ruled out of order.
We should urge the executive arm. In the interim, I use the word urge, the executive arm, in the interim, to reverse this order, pending the outcome of our interaction with the executive arm.
Thank you, Honorable Chinda.
Yes, sir.
Let me very quickly, so that we can move along, refer you to Order 9, Rule 1, Sub-Rule 6 of our rules. It shall be out of order to attempt to reconsider any specific question upon which the House has come to a conclusion during the current session. You're ruled out of order.
Mr. Speaker,
please, Chinda, please be guided.
A slight altercation ensues as Mr. Chinda refuses to be hushed, resulting in a walkout by some members of the PDP, while some other lawmakers jeer them out.
Mr. Speaker, in the circumstance, for PDP members, we have agreed we
The
continue.
next order of the day
Please, Chinda, please, you are a ranking member
is the
of
first
this House.
reading.
We continue to tweet.
Please,
We are
please.
with Nigerians. And if the Attorney General wants to...
Get out if you want to go. Go.
Where is it here? At first, I thought it was a partisan move, but I'm so glad, and I'm happy to see several members of the opposition still here in chambers with us, and I commend you for your non-partisanship.
The PDP caucus insists that it will proceed with its earlier threats to take the government to court, and that the Speaker's statement was his position and that of the leadership, not the entire House. Meanwhile, Tuesday's plenary was dominated by security-related matters.
The House notes with serious concern the invasion by suspected armed bandits of Igangan Town, Ibarapa North local government area of Oyo State, at the wee hours of Saturday, 5th of June 2021.
The role of government in governance is to protect lives and property of the people and to provide welfare for the people. Mr. Speaker, we have failed woefully. Go to the northeast, north central, northwest, southeast, southwest, south. Our people have been killed. What are we doing in government? It is important we address this, Mr. Speaker. Is it the time when we have fighter jets moving here and there that we will address this issue?
A minute of silence is observed for those who recently lost their lives across the country, and the House approves a motion calling for improved security across schools. Terry Ikumi, Channels Television News.
All right, then, yes, we've got two gentlemen joining us to discuss that matter. We've got Honorable Solomon Marin, who is a member of the People's Democratic Party caucus in the House of Reps, and right beside him, Honorable Yunusa Ahmed, who is a member of the House Committee on Loans, Aids and Debt Management, a member of the APC. Gentlemen, good morning, and thank you for joining us on the show today. Well, we saw what transpired, at least some part of it. That's why you both are here, to shed more light on what transpired. So let me start with you, Honorable Marin. Well, could you explain to us at least what, beyond what the little that many may have read or seen with that report, what actually transpired?
Well, thank you very much for having me. What actually transpired on the floor of the House yesterday was that members of the minority caucus, led by our leader, Honorable Kingsley Chinda, came up with a point of order on the issue of personal explanation because of the nature in which our constituents have been bombarding us with complaints over this federal government ban of tutor. And we felt it is necessary that the Parliament take proactive action in order to save many Nigerians who depends on tutor for their daily lives. And the Speaker actually, in his speech welcoming us back from the constitutional review hearings that took place across the country, did mention the fact that, which was actually well commended by the leadership of the caucus in the House, that he raised very germane issues, and that the House was going to set up, ask some committees, standing committees of the House to look into the issues surrounding the ban on tutor. He even went ahead to say that the Minister of Information should be summoned to explain to the parliamentarians on the legality of their action. And we felt that that was actually the leadership intervention, and that if that issue was thrown out for debate, we thought that the members had so much to add to what they brought out, even though they were very proactive, very timely, and indeed we really appreciated what they did. And all we needed to add to that motion or to that intervention was that the issue of the ban should be suspended with immediate effect, such that as the National Assembly have already given itself to intervene, let us wait pending that intervention. If we have this, if we come to know that or see that there are laws that guaranteeing them to do so, it is our responsibility to go back to our people and explain to them that yes, the laws of our land actually gave them powers to do so. But to our own concern is that millions of our supporters, millions of our people who elected us into offices depend on Twitter for their daily lives. Many of them have their shops in their bedroom. All they need to do is to advertise what they do, including artisans, not just selling of products, but including workmen. They just advertise what they are able to do, and people call them for such services. And for overnight, without giving any other alternative, and you just come out to say you have banned Twitter. And we do not see any reason why Twitter should be banned, because Nigerians have not wronged Twitter. Nigerians have not done anything wrong against Twitter. If the president or the presidency, as they say, there are different units of government, have problems with Twitter, they should sort their issues out with Twitter. People take legal actions. People take so many actions in order to sort out your issues. So, but you cannot, because you and them have issue, and you now generalize it on the entire Nigerian people who depends on it for livelihood. At a time that Nigeria and the world over was locked down, and many people lost their jobs, in millions of numbers of jobs lost. And today, people are just trying to survive by all means. People are just trying to find comfort in
part
their
of
own
the
way, and suddenly you just come up with another
We'll come
policy
to that part of the entire discussion.
punish
Just needed to
Nigerians.
establish what transpired, so that we'll just take it bit by bit, the processes and the proceedings in the House. But, Honorable Abubakar, I mean, as that report played, there were many who heard again today, having watched it yesterday and this morning, where some member was heard, just yelling at some of the other members, get out if you want to. And it appears the quorum was thrown out of the window, speaking in a manner that the governments actually don't want young people to use Twitter in terms of not being decorous about it. But perhaps you respond to that moving forward. But from your perspective, did the leadership in the House see things from the perspective Honorable Mariam just explained, with the way things transpired, which led to the walkout?
Well, good morning, viewers. And we heard what my colleague have said. You see, legislative activities, and for you to be in that chamber requires a lot of things to be put in perspective. Like you rightly said, a member have said, and it is issue of a personal explanation, which according to our rule is not subjected to debate. Like he said, the leadership of the House view that that is the issue, and we need to really show our own fidelity in this kind of scenario. What the Speaker said immediately after they even walked out, like he rightly said, pursuant to what the Speaker said in his address, at the end of the event, 4 committees were set up, joint committee. Committee of Communication, Committee on Information, National Orientation, Committee on National Security, and Justice Committee. These 4 committees were set up, and they were given only 10 days to really, when issues or matters like this arise, you need to a little bit peel you peel the issue, go in and find out the rationale behind the executive taking such decisions. Now, going by what has been trending regarding this Twitter issue, we saw a lot of lawyers exchanging, even on this avenue, these channels. I listened to Politics Today. A lot of lawyers came and they give different views. So there is no need subjecting it to further debate, because the polity is already heated, and the legislative arm of government has to do the needful. The needful here is to intervene, invite the information minister, let us know what are the rationales behind taking decisions? What happened then before? Just like my colleague have said, or the minority caucus wanted, we cannot outrightly. We are just resuming all these things were something that is happening in the air, and very people are saying their opinions. We are the constitutionally saddled arm of government that will just issue a statement either in form of motion, resolution to halt it or otherwise. But then we don't have to rush into decision. So I think in our own wisdom, the leadership, just like he said, they welcome the promptness in addressing us, and the speaker take it to be key issues. In fact, apart from that, security is also interlinked. Now, I mean, with this scenario, the Twitter has done what it does, and then they issue out a statement, either legal or illegal. We need to investigate. And I think 10 days period with these 4 committees to invite the information minister, let's peel off the peel a little. We go in, find out their decisions. It is when we had them, we might be in a position to either condemn them, suspend them, or tell them what they did was wrong. Yes, we had the feelers. We are the representative of the people. We, during our break, the constitutional view, we had their views. But then when we come onto the floor of the House, there is no need to overheat. We should just swing into action to find solutions. And I think what the leadership did, he gave out, before they walk out, if they have waited, this committee will have been constituted. They were given a specific mandate, 10 days to swing into actions. Let's hear the executive. You know, in trial, you have to give somebody a fair trial. So the Constitution provided that. So we are doing our jobs, the legislative activities. One cannot just wake up overnight because you have been annoyed or you got annoyed and then you talk. Yes, then you have to settle down, follow, do things. That is what, in trying to exercise your fidelity action and for people to see the fidelity in you, is to do the needful. Listen to these people. Then from there you will know whether their actions are right or wrong. So I think what the leadership has done this time, they have done something that is really, really commendable. And the committees were set up, a press release was issued out. So this issue of Twitter, and in the press statement, the speaker did well to acknowledge the role Twitter plays. And that is why this expedition is taken, so that we look at the matter expeditiously and within the shortest possible limited time to hear their own, then we can come back to the floor and then take decision.
Well, one wonders, Honorable Maren, given that all that you have also said, I'm wondering what you think could have been missing, excuse me, in the position of the House, especially coming from what the Speaker of the House had said. Because, I mean, if you, I believe that you listened to him throughout. Do you want to share what some of those things that you thought may have been left out of consideration in the comments of the House, the leadership of the House of Representatives to which you belong?
Well, like my colleague said, one thing is to set up committee, the other thing is to have results of committee. And we felt that Nigerians, within the period under review, 10 days is too long a period, that people who sell on Twitter every day will not sell for 10 days. And the government is not providing any alternative for them to do that. 2, what was missing from that is that, yes, the leadership came up, like we said, and our leader also said on the floor of the House, very, very timely intervention. All we said was that our leaders are not angels, sir. They are not angels. So when they make recommendations, there are things that could be missing out of it. And we felt that based on the intensity of what we receive or what we hear from our constituents on a daily basis, we felt that they should include to urge the federal government to unban Twitter pending the investigation that is going to take place by the House. Let me also bring your notice, sir. Even yesterday on the other paper, there were over 20, about more than 15 items that were listed to be taken over by committees, referrals that were made to committees. Over 15 of them. They were listed on the order paper yesterday. And how are we sure? How long has these issues been with those committees? Who knows how long this will even be with that committee? Because committees have always been given 10 days, 2 weeks. We are all members. I'm not the first timer, at least I've been in the House since 2015. I've known the procedure of the House at this time. And that this matter, as you are talking about, can be in the front of the, can be in those committees for the next 3 weeks or next 3 months. And very soon the House is going to go on its long-time hot recess. And if this matter is still pending and the committees are not able to submit their reports until we resume again from those that long-time hot recess, then you want Nigerians to continue to be in this situation for how long? So I think what was missing,
there's so many
just said, which our leader also said, was just the fact that urge the federal government to unban Twitter for the time
exactly
being,
on that, honorable
investigation.
On that, honorable, do you think? Just 1 second. Just 1 second. Do you think the House of Representatives has any power to order the federal government to do anything? Isn't that supposed to be the duty of the courts?
Well, that is why we use the word urge. While we also plan, if there is no any substantive decision taken, and as we urge them, we give them time to respond to our urge, and if they do not respond, of course, the last alternative is for us to head to court. And you cannot just head to court if you have not opened any form of understanding or any form of try to intimate the person you feel that you should have done what or this or that. And that's why we are trying to bring to the attention that we are urging you to unban Twitter. And so if our urge to you does not work, and we watch over a short time and we see that we urge them, what is the response of the government? And we see that there is no response, we go ahead to court, of course, certainly. We have headed to court on several matters as members of the opposition. And many of them, the cases have been decided in our favor. Well, and I see also on the dailies of today, you see that the Serap and 176 Nigerians have gone to the ECOWAS court. But the fear is, why are they not going to the Nigerian court? Why not our own local court?
I mean, that's a big question you raise.
It's an issue that our courts can be able to decide within a short time.
Right.
Now they have gone to the ECOWAS court. So we also will look at the modalities of following that. And like my colleague said, there was actually a motion before the House, the motion of urgent public importance. But because we have exceeded the numbers that they take in a day, they were unable to take it. And that was why prompted us to raise the issue on personal explanation, since the issue was not listed on our other paper, but because of the urgency involved. And it was also submitted by our leader as a matter of urgent public importance. But it was not taken. And we felt we cannot walk out of this chamber without telling the world about how Nigerians feel.
Right. Just a moment. Let me take this back to Honorable Abubakar and get some clarification. So one of the issues raised is the process, the way and manner in which the decision was reached by the House leadership. Just how much input did either the minority, especially the minority, have in this decision? Because, I mean, this decision was made in the opening statement of the Speaker of the House. And the minority in the House is worried that, I mean, they didn't have much input. They say that it was solely the idea of the leadership. So what was the process, really, to this decision?
Well, thank you very much. You see, the processes are very clear. With due respect to my colleagues, the Chinda and the Honorable Mariam, that we are here together, the minority caucus has their own institutionally recognized leaders. We have a minority leader, deputy minority leader, minority whip, and deputy minority whip. When we talk of leadership, it comprises the majority part and then the minority part, plus the presiding officers. So 10 of them, they might have seen the gravity and they have taken the decisions at their leadership meeting. That's what even made and then armed the speaker when he came in his opening address. He now take it as an issue. So instead of waiting for a member to raise it as matters of urgent public importance, the leadership have already swept into action. They swung into action and they took it upon themselves. Once the speaker have taken it to be an issue, and then they have now real out step taken into consideration the minority leaders. Probably, I'm sorry, I don't know what is happening in the PDP as being the major majority and minority party, but the Kinda, he said, could be the leader of the PDP, but is not recognized on the floor of the House. When leadership are to take decision, Honorable Kingsley Chinda and Honorable Barrett's view are not supposed to be taking care. Is Honorable Elumelu, who is the minority leader, the deputy minority leader, Toby Okechukwu, and then the minority whip Gideon Goni, and the deputy minority whip. They are the one that the leadership will consult, and they came out with recent resolution. If these pronouncements are coming from these statutory leaders of the minority caucus, then probably you could have deemed that the speaker did not consult them. But I am telling you authoritatively that these people were consulted before such resolutions are there.
Okay.
Nevertheless, you cannot stop any member from airing his view. Right. But it is for the chair, to decide. So this is the process. And I am telling you, when you talk about going to court, as you say, investigation has to be done. We cannot just approach the court.
Honorable Bokar, just a moment. I will come back to that in a moment. Let me just take this back to Honorable Marin and get his response to what you just raised. So, Honorable Marin, to what extent were your members consulted in that decision that was announced by the Speaker?
Well, you know, we had a meeting as a opposition party, and our minority leader was not present. I think he's still in Delta. And he asked us at the meeting, when we finish, we should give him a call and tell him what the resolutions are. If there are issues he needs to modify, he will modify. And at the end of the meeting, we threw a call to Honorable Elumelu, who is the minority leader. We are not disputing the minority leadership of the House. That is not in contest by anyone. Honorable Elumelu is our leader. Honorable Toby Okechukwu is the deputy leader. We have Honorable Goni is our whip, and we have also my friend Honorable Ataka Adekoya is the minority whip, deputy minority whip. That is not in contention with anybody. And what we are saying is that what we did on the floor of the House yesterday was with the approval of our leader. Our leader was aware because we told him clearly that, well, the PDP caucus have taken a decision that if these issues are not taken on the floor of the House, we are going to stage a walkout because Nigerians are on our neck and we cannot pretend that all is well. And so we are going to do so. So for him to assert that whether Kingsley Chinda was not in a position to take the issue on the floor of the House, or myself or anyone else, I don't think there is any reason to that. More so that as members of the parliament, everybody was elected individually. Right. And I have the right to air what my constituents are telling me. That is why they elected me. I am a spokesman of my constituents. And so if I come here and my constituents have issues, even if I don't get clearance from anyone, I should be able to say it. And that is why the rules provide for all those opportunities, for personal explanation, for matters of urgent public importance, for motions, for bills, for many ways in which you can air the views of your constituents. So I don't think that is an issue. But the question I'll throw to him is that, are you happy that the federal government banned Twitter? Or are you in support of the ban on Twitter? And what we are saying is that we have only asked you, we are only asking government to unban it for the time being. Like I said yesterday, there were over 15 issues which have been referred to various standing committees of the House. This is also, it has also been referred to standing committees.
Okay,
so I'm sure that within 10 days we are going to get resolved.
So let me just do this quickly. Let me line up your question with mine and hopefully get Honorable Abubakar to respond to those questions. So on the one hand, he's asking about your feelings, personal feelings about Twitter being suspended in Nigeria. And let me just add this to it. The question about whether or not this should have been open to a debate on the floor of the House, so you have a more robust decision, as it were. And also add to that, when you said that, I mean, you wanted to find out the rationale behind the federal government's decision before you now make your own decision. I recall May, just last month, you ordered NERC to suspend the proposed tariff hike by discos. And what you did was swing into action and ask for a suspension, not say, you know, let's understand the rationale behind, you know, the discos and the rest wanting to increase the tariff. So looking at these two issues, because both of them concern Nigerians, really, and you know how electricity tariff issues have been in recent times. So why the different standards, so to speak, in approaching these issues? One, you want to find out the rationale, the other, you swing into action immediately.
Well, let me first quickly start by the question my colleague raised, and then you join it with your own. My own personal feeling on banning on this Twitter by the Nigerian government, given the situation and the scenario, I actually support it 100%. And then because they have the constitutional right to do that, we knew what happened when Capitol was attacked in the US. There are several other countries. In fact, there is an African country that even suspended all the social media until they finish their election. So when the security of the country is being breached, those people that they are using Twitter for either trading or whatever, if war broke, where will you have time to do your marketing? So we are trying to be proactive. So I think it is better for you to wait for 10 days to put things into perspective than to allow Twitter freely. We had people who made statements more than what the president of this country has done, has said. All he said is calling them to order, but if they refuse, they will be met with the equal measure. What is wrong there that Twitter remove it? Whereas I don't want to bedevil the polity with whatever there. All this is on social media, what other people were saying, and they were not born. Let me quickly interject that was it not just after the banning, Twitter now deleted Nnamdi Kanu's statement on Twitter. So, and yesterday I watched on another TVC, this journalist hung out. It was discussed openly that yes, they are talking behind though, that Twitter have realized their mistakes. As we don't base issues on sentiment. So it is for the government too, and they have the constitutional right to do that. I remember Daniel Bwala on this channel has reeled out reasons, giving his own constitutionality and the legality of the action of the federal government. So to me, personally, I saw it that we need to preserve the nation first. You have to be alive to talk of marketing, whatever. So the countries are the brims, and we believe Twitter has really collaborated in extending that. So for us to take a little time, Twitter has been existing for time, how many years now? So for us to do that, so that we can create an enabling environment for either the young ones and everybody to use Twitter freely, I think is better. And that suspension has started yielding fruit. If you are following international, they were talking behind the scene. Yesterday, I watched a TVC journalist hang out, and that is what they reel out, that in fact themselves, the banning has yielded result. So to me, we have no regret whatsoever. That is one. Secondly, the issue of the discourse, increasing tariff, and this one, this issue of a Twitter is a Nobel issue. We have never handled a situation like that. It's very Nobel. And then with its own nobility, you have to study so that you come out of it clean. So that's the difference. That issue of disco increasing tariff has been there from time, for quite some time now, so we knew about it. So we knew the impact. There were several motions on the floor of the House regarding tariff, even this suspension and what have you. So it is an issue that is germane and not novel. We are used to it, so we can take prompt action. But the issue of the Twitter, you will agree with me that it's novel. Because of its nobility, it's just a new something we are approaching for the first time. That is what happened with the different stroke to this scenario.
Don't you think that, I mean, the more reason there should be proper debates because, I mean, it's novel. There needs to be robust discussion on this. So, I mean, it's still the same point.
You see, we are saying the same point. The debate, at least when he said there were issues of matters of urgent public importance, after whatever, okay, let me give you a scenario. Suppose there is an issue. A member, yes, being the spokesperson of his constituency, he spoke. Who take decision? It is not the leadership. Now the leadership are saving you. Save your energy for another discussion. We knew your cry. We have already come to give you medicine. This is the scenario. And that is why even Honorable Kingsley Chinda, I dropped my heart for him. He commended the leadership. Even Marem said they commended the leadership for prompt action. So when the leader that you are to take your plea and cry to him, to urge him, has already says, I know your problem, and these are the solution. And at the end of the day, the same solution that he gave, you are in tandem, you agree with it. So when he saves you energy, you should have been thanking him rather than grumbling that you didn't hear. At the end of your, what do you call it, you voice out your views, you say the grievances, you carry the complaint of your constituent, is for the leadership to articulate it and take decision. That's why they are your leader. But then they save you that grace. I think they should be thanking the leadership, for goodness sake. Rather than, must you talk? If there is a problem and there is a solution being proffered,
okay, Honorable Marans,
you come and be allowed to say the problem. Time was saved.
Hang on a minute, gentlemen.
And for him to say that within 10 years, this thing will not come.
We need to go to break now. But Honorable Marans, just hold on a minute. We'll return and you'll tell us if and why you commended the leadership. That will be in just a moment. Don't go away. Honorable Mariam, please go ahead and tell us if indeed you did agree and commended the leadership as your colleague suggested.
First, let me first say that you can see the thinking of the APC in the House. My colleague, I don't know whether he's speaking for the APC or he's speaking for himself, he has said he supports the banning of Twitter. That is the reason why we were against us leaving the floor of the House without us taking a tentative decision on asking the federal government to unban Twitter pending that investigation that is going to take place. Yes, we commended the Speaker. The Speaker came out and reeled out the importance of Twitter in his speech. And he said how Nigerians have been benefiting from the use of Twitter. And he further said, however, that yes, if Twitter has been useful to us, we do not know the reason why the federal government banned Twitter. On that reason, we'll call the Minister of Communication to come and tell us the legality of banning Twitter. Two, we are going to put up some committees of the House together so that they will advise us also on the issue. And all we said was that our leaders are not angels, and that we said there was one prayer left out. Tell the federal government to unban Twitter pending that intervention that we are going to do. And that is just all we're asking for. And we said, please, Mr. Speaker, can you put this as an addendum to your prayer to this committee that is going to be formed? And all the Speaker needed to do was to say he has had Chinda and the point of order has been noted. Even if at the end, Mr. Speaker didn't include it in the items given to those committees for referral, but that Mr. Speaker is an agreement that the federal government we should urge the federal government to unban Twitter. And this is just what we wanted to say. that the committee, we need to come out tentatively and say, please stop this thing first. Let us go. You see, my colleague is talking about Nnamdi Kanu. How does Nnamdi Kanu concerns Nigerians? How? Are we saying that Nnamdi Kanu is Boko Haram, or he is bandit, or he is the one doing kidnapping, or what is he? That the government of Nigeria cannot collaborate with Interpol and collaborate with other international organizations to apprehend him wherever he is. You see, it's not, the issue is not about how you feel. Government has every power. Government has been given capacity. The president has all the powers to ensure that Nigerians are protected, to ensure that if someone commits an offense, he pays for it. But you cannot carry the offense of one individual and visit it on the entire nation. We are in a country where I read in the social media lately, where they said federal government fined BDCs 900 million for having links with insurgents. And I was wondering, why would you find somebody who has linked with insurgency or terrorism money to pay? He should be apprehended. Those jurisdictions should be closed, because they have gone beyond the business that government approved for them to do. Now you're talking of somebody that somebody's tweet alone, one person tweet, is now going to strand Nigeria completely, when you have the powers to deal with that individual, whether in a collaborative manner or even as the president of the country. So I think it is high time we come out of this. It is also high time we look at ourselves as Nigerians. We look at our rights as very sacrosanct. Nigeria is a signatory to the human rights conventions, and we have signed to them, we have accepted them. So we cannot come up one day and start gagging Nigerians on the issues of human rights because somebody's idea was thrown down. Like I said earlier, it is the president's message that was dropped from Twitter. How did we ask president to write? What is our fault? If the president feels that what he wrote was right, he should take the matter up with Twitter. You can sue them.
And that is it.
In the international courts. But not to bring the matter and visit it on Nigerians who are legitimately doing their businesses and they are legitimately doing their rights. And I think this is the area where, as Nigerians, we must speak out. We must condemn what is condemnable. We must say what is right so that we can position Nigeria for greatness. We are members of opposition. We are not members of enemies of Nigeria.
Yes, you are.
We are members of the we are Nigerians first, and we represent Nigerians in the parliament of the Nigerian people. And whatever affects our people affects us, because without them we cannot be here. We are so privileged to be elected among 360 Nigerians to come and represent our people. I think that privilege is very large enough for us to tell the truth. Whether if we are going to die, let us die, because what they have given us, we can't pay them back.
All right, Honorable Ahmed, I mean, he did point out some double standards in the way government is dealing with some of these matters concerning security, terrorism, appearing as though they pick and choose how these things are meted out. But there are those who equally believe that that scenario that played out concerning the debate on Twitter, setting up the committee, may have been predetermined. In addition to that, they wonder why does it even have to be 10 days for a matter that's been brewing for a while. And then they say that because, number one, we remember that the Senate Committee on Ethics and Privileges did give the chairman of the Code of Conduct Bureau, who was being investigated, 2 weeks to appear before that committee and defend. He requested for a week and they gave him 2 weeks. And that was on the 4th of May, thereabout. Now, it's over a month. Nothing has been heard so far, at least unless maybe we might have missed it. That's why they look at these examples and several others saying, from the look of things, this they don't see this leadership of the National Assembly, not just the House of Reps now, standing up and putting their foot forward and telling the executive arm of government, this is what Nigerians think. We think you made a mistake, if they need to do so.
Well, thank you, Chamberlain. Your questions are very apt. I don't think there is any issue of double standard as raised. But before I address your question specifically, let me make a little comment on what my colleague have said. I cited the issue of Nnamdi Kanu not because Nnamdi Kanu is anything significant, but he is. For instance, he has tweeted a lot of statements that are causing uncertainty. What makes the South is now becoming ungovernable? Imo State, banning of all this, and the IPOP under the leadership of Kanu, they are claiming something, and here somebody saying that Kanu is nobody, we cannot bother with him, all the lives being wasted in the Southeast. That is one. So Kanu is an issue, and the correlation is that Buhari speak, because we saw all this tweet of Nandi has been on Twitter. No, Twitter has never deleted him. Let us assume that they don't know that Kanu is doing that tweet.
Ahmed, pardon me to jump in. I hope we don't lose your train of thoughts. But if I could just put this, yeah, you will. But when you ask that the Twitter delete him, don't forget that the president's tweet was actually reported by Nigerians, and those are part of the rules, before some actions are taken. So the question is, did government and several other people report those tweets to Twitter and nothing was done?
Thank you. Thank you.
Well, now that the federal government decided to ban, it could be too late. Better late than never. They have now realized that they should have.
I think that's a no to that question, isn't it?
Of Nnamdi, and like I said, coming to yesterday, all those tweets, the Twitter have deleted them. So let's assume that Twitter is now coming to term. I say they are doing their Chinese talk. That is not the issue. Let's come to the House, and specifically the one you say. The actions of the leadership are not pre-mediated. And why do we have leaders? If they can see solutions and they solve problem and provide solutions to them, they are doing their job. What I'm saying, somebody is coming to me with a problem. Before he comes, I say, oh, I know, is that your problem? Yes, it's my problem. Okay, this is the solution. Then the man is saying, no, don't give me the solution yet. Wait and listen to my grievances. Yes, your medicine is okay, but listen to my complaint. No, this is the scenario that they must be had. Are you trying to showcase, to tell that the people have elected you, or you are trying to play pranks of the opposition? Because in an opposition party, what they are doing it to sit up the sitting government, which is okay. So even if they say this is white, they will say it is black, so that the sitting government will be whitening it white until it is so white. Because you can never do anything to please the opposition. Because he is thinking whatever you are doing, he can do better. So I don't want to say that they are coming from that perspective, but it is appearing to be so, though I didn't conclude. So there is no issue of double standard. We have been saddled, people have given us a mandate, and we are executing the mandate. Whether they regretted giving us the mandate, now we are on the saddle, and we have to do the needful in trying to preserve their lives. Now, coming to the issue of this security, I don't want to preempt, but today, according to the resolution of yesterday, when we enter plenary, and by the end of plenary, there are going to be steps taken pursuant to the security summit that was done the week before last. So the House is really on a track. For this time, the leadership are doing, and people should have confidence. They have never failed. I don't see, since we are in this 9th assembly, I don't think that's a decision that collectively the House took or the leadership took on our behalf that was not carried out. They say they will do something differently. Instead of open confrontation, they will be doing the Chinese talk, talking behind, and it has been yielding result. The aim of complaint is to provide solutions. So if the solutions are there, then why are we complaining? So what I'm trying to say is that the issue of this security summit and whatever, today it was resolved. Today, being 9th of June, will cover up, and so many resolutions are coming out of the security summit. It was a statement, and all press have carried it, and I believe people have read it. So let's wait and see whatever is coming up. And for the 10 days, you don't have to have doubting Thomases. There are scenarios that you can bring a complaint, they will set up a committee. And all those committees he was referring on the other paper, I didn't see anything except for tertiary institutions that they were referred. And before we went on this constitutional review and the security summit break, so many committees were discharged. Let me come to the individual capacity. People have elected me. They believed in me. So you cannot condemn any one member. But all members are not there, are not equal. You give me a responsibility within a specified time. If I did not do it, the right thing is to discharge me of that. And the House has been discharging members
Just
to be assigned for committees. Without this committee, we cannot function.
Right, just quickly, I'd like to ask, when last really did any committee investigation yield something that maybe monumentally challenged the federal government to action?
The issue of DISCO, the NAC, that issue of high tariff, we suspended it severally. There was a time that we even gave a line, in this 9th Assembly, under this leadership, we interjected, and so many things were suspended. The issue of ID card, this SIM, aligning with our SIM card, and the NIM issue was also there.
Well,
I was even the one that even moved that motion that we suspended, and then we collaborated. I came in here and we mentioned the reason. It has yielded result.
Right, interesting. Even though some of those issues are still ongoing right now. I mean, they go off for about a few weeks and then they come up again. I mean, the tariffs, we know how it works. But you said earlier that you are actually in support of this suspension of Twitter. I wonder if that's your personal view of or the view of your constituents. But if that's your personal view, or I don't know, I guess it's the view of your constituents as well. And we've seen a trend. It would look like the main party, the APC, has aligned definitely with the federal government on this. One wonders what will come out of that committee's investigation, which aligns with the questions of, isn't this all premeditated already?
Well, I don't want to say it is premeditated, like I said, but the views, like I said, let me answer your question, is my personal view and the view of my constituents. Because I consult them and I have gauged their own view. Because my own constituents, have suffered defect of this Boko Haram, and they have been using that Twitter. In fact, that banning should have come much, much earlier. So to me, my constituents have a relief now, and it is a temporary suspension, not that they were banned. After all,
Twitter, just a minute. How did Twitter escalate the Boko Haram insurgency?
I don't want to go into that.
No. You said that Boko Haram insurgency. How do you mean that Twitter has escalated Boko Haram insurgency?
Thank you.
They have been allowed to be tweeting.
You mean your constituents or Boko Haram?
They have been being allowed to be tweeting.
The insurgents?
Yes.
Oh, you mean Boko Haram has a handle?
My own constituent, you know, there are a lot of people that were veterans. They fought this war, and we don't want anything that could escalate to war.
Honorable Bakar,
Twitter has been used. You know, just like
do you mean that Boko Haram has a Twitter handle? I just want to get that correct.
Really cleanse it.
I understand. Do you say that Boko Haram has a Twitter handle, or how have they been tweeting?
What I'm saying, they were using social platform, which Twitter is also part of the blog group, but for blogging. So what I'm saying, the same scenario should have been applied to all of them. But if Twitter, Nigeria as a government, who is an APC government, so definitely I have to ally with this. I mean, an APC man, I believe in the principles and the way the party is conducting its affairs. That is why I'm a member. And whatever decisions my party took, Mr. President took, I cannot come And after all, we have seen a lot of reasons and the rationale behind it. Like I said, a lot of lawyers there, and I am convinced, I align myself. We have this freedom of speech, like you said, but people shouldn't forget that where my own freedom ends, yours start. Where yours end, my own start. So
No,
I should also exercise
everybody
my freedom.
else's.
And
But
I cannot
you know,
allow you, or you cannot allow me to exercise my own freedom in to your own detriment.
well, it's some of the comments you made there. I mean, those who just wonder if government knew that they were tweeting and active on social media, their job was to get them arrested. And so if they knew all this, how come? Is it the same people that they gave amnesty and saying, well, so it raises a lot of questions there. But my colleague has a question for you.
Yes, sir. Honorable Marion, I just want to ask, so after the walkout, well, some members of your party still stayed back. Now, this has happened. What next for the PDP in the House?
Well, you heard very clearly yesterday our leader, based on the advice of the Speaker, that this matter can only come by a way of substantive motion on the floor of the House, and that motion is ready. Has been delivered this morning, and I'm sure Mr. Speaker will oblige us to take the motion so that Nigerians will have, their representative will have a robust debate on the matter so that they can also provide more solution to the issue. Let me also say, it's unfortunate that you can hear the side of the APC, and that is why the fear that the members of the minority party, the PDP caucus, so to say, have. If a member is already coming out to say he is in support of it, an issue that is out for investigation, you can see that we have lost, the matter has lost credibility, because we are not expecting anything meaningful to come out of it. If the APC are already in support of it, and the chairman of those committees, most of them are APC members, and so if the decision of their party is that they will ban Twitter and they are already in support of it, you can see the reason why the minority parties, most of the PDP caucus, has to be on its feet. It's unfortunate also that we do not see things that are white and we call it black. But when we see things going wrong as opposition party, we give solutions to how they should be made white. And I think this is exactly what we have been doing over the years, and we will continue to do. We do not hate our country. We love our country like any other person. Doesn't matter the party you belong to, you do not love Nigeria more than us. We love our country and we will continue to work for our country. But what we are saying is that if you have issues with individuals who have tweeted any wrong message on Twitter, as a country, a member of the United Nations, you have a duty to take up any organization around the world in any court of law. And I think it will be unfair for you to want to visit the scene of an individual or group of individuals upon the entire over 200 million people. And I think that is very, very unfair to all of us. And those are the things we stand to fight, and we'll continue to do our best to ensure that those things do not happen in our country. And I think that the APC should rethink its position to know that Nigerians are also members of the United Nations, and we have agreed to the Universal Declaration on Human Rights, and that part of what you have done is against the human rights of our people. And then you look at Chapter 4 of our Constitution, many of our rights are being trampled upon. And I think it is high time you do the needful, because if you talk of insurgency or you talk of insecurity around the country, I think you should know the the solution, because after all, Nigerians elected you on that premise in 2015. And so if you come out today and you tell us that it's banning Twitter that will solve Nigeria's insecurity problem, it means you are still far in the woods. And we don't think you have position enough to take Nigeria out of what it is inside at the moment. So I think
Honorable Solomon
very important. And yes, sir, like I said earlier, I want to remind him, sir.
Well,
yes, sir, that the PDP does not see what is white and call it black, because Mr. Speaker came up with a very, two of our prayers were captured in his speech, which was very commendable, and we commended him for that. And we're only saying that we wanted to add just a third prayer. That is all, sir. All this is about adding that third prayer. urging the federal government to unban Twitter pending the outcome of this decision. Finish, sir.
All right, Honorable Solomon Marin, member of PDP caucus in the House of Reps, as well as Honorable Ahmed Yunus Abubakar, who is a member of the House Committee on Loans, Aids and Debt Management, as well as a member of the APC. Thank you both for talking to us this morning.
You're welcome, sir.
All right, then. Well, we'll take a legal perspective on this matter. Mr. Falana will be joining us in just a moment. Don't go away.
Must understand that we are in a constitutional democracy. And in a constitutional democracy, there are spelled out rules, regulations, processes, and procedures of doing things. What government had done is definitely in the larger interest of the Nigerian society. Basically because if you take the so-called offensive tweet, or the tweet that Twitter said violates their code, and put it in context, what is abusive about that tweet? Is it a fact or is it a lie that Nigeria fought a civil war? Is it a fact or is it a lie that in that civil war, millions of lives were lost, properties beyond which you cannot even quantify in material terms, in terms of loss of lives, loss of property, loss of man-hour, loss of infrastructure, loss, all of this. Is it a lie that Nigeria did not pass through all this? But is it a lie also that when you are on the Twitter, because I am always on Twitter, and I see the kind of hate that is being played out on the social media, and especially on Twitter, by young men and women who actually correctly, as the president has said, do not know the history of the country, where the country is coming from, and therefore where we are headed, and are trying, either deliberately or out of ignorance, or as conduits of certain forces, to tweet things that largely have far-reaching security implications for this country. I think contextually, Twitter, if it had done its homework, would have seen that there was actually nothing harmful from what this president has said.
Welcome back. Well, yes, indeed, the conversation continues about federal government suspension of Twitter. We've heard from the members of the House of Representatives. Mr. Femi Falana, Senior Advocate of Nigeria, joins us next to give his perspective on the matter. Good morning, and thank you for joining us. Well, when you heard this announcement in the first place, what was your thought?
Well, my thought was that the memo, that I was reminded of the memo, secret memo, that the Attorney General was alleged to have forwarded to the President to allow for immediate suspension of the provisions of Chapter 4 of the Constitution, that is the human rights of Nigerians, to allow the government to deal with the crisis of insurgency, the crisis of insecurity in the country. And so I simply thought, oh, we are back to square one, you know. My mind also, I was also reminded of where we were in 1984 when we were told under Section 3 of this Constitution Suspension and Modification Decree signed by the then Military Head of State, General Muhammadu Buhari, that a law could be made either by through broadcast or through any other means. And here we are being told now that it's a law and that Nigerians can be tried under a law that has not been enacted by the National Assembly. So we're fully back to an era whereby the provisions of Chapter 4 can no longer be said to be in force in our country. And for me, that was very terrible for me.
Before, you came on, we listened to the DG of the NOA saying that we are in a constitutional democracy. Leaning on that, you would, conclude that that secret memo that was said to have been passed has not taken effect. At least he says we are in a constitutional democracy. So, in a constitutional democracy, how should this sort of issue have been handled?
In a constitutional democracy, the government is not permitted to resort to self-help. And that point was abundantly made clear in the case of the Attorney General of Lagos State and the Attorney General of the Federation regarding the seizure of the funds belonging to local governments in Lagos State, because the president did not like the fact, because President Obasanjo at the material time did not like the fact that the Lagos State government under Governor Bola Tinubu had created additional local government. And the Supreme Court made the point. We are not in a totalitarian regime. Once a dispute has arisen between the president
All right.
and the government, you have to go to court to resolve the dispute. No power, no government in Nigeria is permitted to resort to self-help. In this particular instance, since we're under a constitutional democracy, what ought to have been done was to have sued Twitter if the organization would not respond positively to the concerns of the government.
Yeah, well, we keep losing that signal.
Or in Ghana here, the federal government could have filed an action in the United States of America, or in Ghana here, which currently houses the headquarters of the organization in Africa. But on no ground can the action of the government be justified, because Chamberlain, here we are talking of 40 million subscribers, Twitter subscribers. The fact that the ego, the profound respect, the justification for denying for the rest of the, and that is why we have to appreciate that the concept France century, when Louis said, like I said, more, I am the state. No, with profound respect, the president is not Nigeria. And there is a between state security, national security, and security of any individual in the country. And we have to balance the interests of the president, the interests of the Nigerian people. Again, we are not back to the era of the military, where when some of us were arrested for under the pretext that that we have violated or embarrassed the government of Nigeria. No. National security is different from individual security of officials of the government.
Well, but Mr. Falana, is it, how do we separate the interest of the president and that of his office or Nigerians, as it were? Because, I mean, if he's elected as the president to ensure that things are done, he protects the integrity of the country and ensure that things go well, is it not going to be very difficult, especially when he says, look, that a certain kind of had tweeted several times and then they were supposed to have deleted it. That wasn't done. So they thought that there were a series of events which made them suspect that something was amiss, hence that decision.
Again, this is where I'm going to appeal to the government to be more circumspect when matters of this nature arise. Whereas we were told that Twitter deleted an aspect of the speech of the president, of the statement of the president, that was suggestive of launching a genocidal attack on the people in the southeast. That is the area. It's not about, oh yes, we had the civil war. Oh, young people are not aware of what happened. With respect to the head of the National Orientation Agency, it's not the duty of the government to that agency. And Nigeria, as young people in some parts of the country began to make separatist demands, it's not the duty of the government to have a dialogue, enter into a meaningful dialogue with them. Oh, this was when we went through under the Civil War. Gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen, what are your grievances? Can we negotiate? And we have had that situation in this country before. I mean, I defended some of the militants in the Niger Delta. And we have to make it clear. We have to make it abundantly clear that, you know, the government ain't going to win this war unless you sit down with these aggrieved young men and women. And that was what culminated in the amnesty granted to the militants. Now, and the country was better for it. This regime had entered into dialogue with some terrorists, you know, and pardon, granted amnesty to them. Those who were ready to, we were told that those who are ready to abandon terrorism will be accommodated by the government. And they were sent to schools abroad. And we did warn this government. We did advise the government. Don't criminalize anybody asking for your own country and the country of your dream. You know, don't criminalize them. They are also exercising their right to, because Section 20, Article 20 of the African Charter guarantees the right of Africans to self-determination. If people now say, we want to separate from Nigeria, it is the duty of the government. Those who want corporate existence of Nigeria retained to educate them. But if in our schools, history has been expunged, how do you expect young people, particularly those who are under 30 or even under 40 now, to know what people went through on, you know, when we fought the Civil War between 1967 and 1970. So for me, the government must appreciate that errors have been made. The government must move quickly to address the conditions that led to the publication of many of the events that the government considered offensive by Twitter. But you don't throw away the baby and the bathwater. The government, including the president of our country, the vice president of our country, and ministers, including the Attorney General of the Federation, have had cause to tweet, to get messages to Nigerians through their Twitter handle. Now, yesterday, we were told that the Attorney General of the Federation, who are threatening over the weekend to prosecute Nigerians for using Twitter or for defying the suspension of Twitter in Nigeria. The Attorney General was yesterday, in fact, he announced himself yesterday that he had just deactivated his own Twitter account. And people are asking, how did you log in if you hadn't, violated the ban on the suspension? I mean, the suspension of Twitter. So there are complications. And ultimately, what is important for all of us is to appreciate, like the DG of NOA just reminded us, we are in a constitutional democracy, and where a law has criminalized hate, genocide, and so on and so forth. Government officials, individuals in the country must kowtow to the rule of law.
Well, Mr. Falana, one of the things that comes to mind, readily is part of what you have said earlier, but then when you mention the United Nations, the Declaration of Human Rights comes to mind. Article 19 is quite famous now. It talks about, what people ought to do and the fact that everyone has the right to freedom of opinion and all of that, and expression. This right includes freedom to hold opinions without interference and to seek, receive, and impact information and ideas through any media and regardless of frontiers. I believe that Nigeria is signatory to this as well. Would you call this Nigeria crossing the line of its own agreement in the international community? If this is, what then should be the next line of action, and by whom?
Well, apart from the ratification of the United Nations Declaration of Human Rights of 1948, Nigeria has also ratified the United Nations International Covenant on Political and Civil Rights of 1966. But beyond the ratification of this international instrument, Nigeria has entrenched 39 T's: freedom of expression, including access to information. Article 9, in addition, Article 9 of the African Charter on Human and People's Rights. Gas action. So what the government has done is to infringe the right of Nigerians to access information, to freedom of expression. And what should be done therefore is to challenge, if the government will not review its position and revise the decision, to suspend Twitter and thereby deny Nigerians access to information. What should be done is that concerned citizens and organizations should be encouraged, of course, not to take the law into their hands, but to
well, Mr. Farah, let's see if we can put this in. Okay, we keep losing the connection. Okay, go ahead, please.
And I'm saying that what should be done is to challenge the action of the government in court. And SERAP had gone to court, had approached the ECOWAS court yesterday, since Nigerian courts are been shut down again for over 2 months because of impunity. This is the way to go. That the law
Okay, let me just put this in as we, begin to wind down. One wonders,
I was listening to the PDP flaps.
Oh, okay.
And I was quite, I was just asking myself, what is going on here? Because in the last 22 years, it's the same game that members of the ruling class or the political parties or those who are in power do not believe that Nigerians have a right. So we have to beg for our rights. I mean, so when in this country, I had defended journalists, who were charged with sedition, a law that was declared illegal in 1983. Journalists were charged under the PDP government for publishing that a newly acquired jet, presidential jet, developed problem, and so they were wondering whether it was a second-hand plane, a Tokumbo plane, as they call it in Nigeria. And for that reason, they were charged with sedition. And there are other instances, so all the members of the political party, whether you are in or outside power, must appreciate that Nigerians fought for their right. And that was why the Court of Appeal said, in the case of Oton Nwankwo and the state, that those who are in power, who may feel irascible by publications in the media, should learn to go to court to sue for libel, where they will put their own character in issue. But on no ground should Nigerians allow the government to, abridge the freedom of expression that we have fought for. Because according to the court, criticism is indispensable in a democratic society or in a constitutional democracy.
That's a very interesting place to leave it. We do thank you very much indeed for your perspectives, Mr. Femi Falana, Senior Advocate of Nigeria.
Thank you very much, somebody.
All right. We'll be back and take a look at your comment, your right to express yourself. So just give us a moment. We'll be back. Welcome back. Let's take a look at some of your feedback, your emails, your messages. We've got this one from George Akmanbo, says Nigeria and committees. Well, George. He says, look, the problem in Nigeria is that we talk too much with little or no action. Ouch. How can Nigerians still be talking about setting up committees to solve problems for Nigerians when none of those things work? The PDP man is very correct and honest with his submissions. Since the introduction of democracy in Nigeria, none of the report of any of the committees has been implemented. So why are we still doing the same thing and expect a different result? Nigerians should be serious about what is happening around them once and for all. Other countries are busy developing their lives and countries while we're still discussing Twitter ban in the 21st century?
Olagunjo Oladile's mail says it is virtually impossible to express your views in the modern age without social media. In law, silence on a penalty for doing something means that the law does not apply to it and can't be prosecuted for something that is not available in our constitution. Nowhere that corporations can't be penalized by the FG for whatever reasons attached. However, the freedom of speech mandate protects you from the government putting you in jail for expressing your views.
Sheriff Kura Ibrahim says, the president of Nigeria tweeted. His tweet was removed. Does this mean that the president has no right as a human to tweet as an individual whose right to freedom of expression needs to be respected?
This is from Ozoya, who says, please, I want you guys to throw more light on what it means to tweet responsibly. Is it like don't drink and tweet, or don't drive and tweet, or more like don't tweet any national issue, please? Well, I need to know, since tweeting responsibly is the only grounds for lifting the suspension.
I imagine there are a lot of people behind you on that queue.
Well,
People that need to know.
I think it was the Minister of Foreign Affairs that said it. So maybe him or the office may have to, well, they can't tweet now. I think they have to speak to the press. But even if they issue a press statement, will it suffice?
Well, you won't see it on Twitter anyway, so. But I mean, I like it.
Okay, the minister can send us an email, can read it.
Oh, absolutely. I like that. Typical of Nigeria, you know, make some humor with real issues. Agi John Modi says every large internet-based company, whether they are registered in Nigeria or not, has Nigerian representatives and maintains Nigerian workforce. So the Nigerian government can ban its operations in the country, and the ban on Twitter is not merely based on the removal of Buhari's tweets, but on a wider complaint of misinformation allowed on the platform. Also, that the Nigerian government seems to be acting in disarray is not correct. Rather, the government has acted in an organized manner, with the Ministry of Information announcing the ban, the Ministry of Communication and Digital Economy executing the ban, the Ministry of Justice standing by to penalize defaulters, and the Ministry of Foreign Affairs engaging in diplomacy.
I wonder what the Ministry of Labour and Productivity will say. Professor Enahena says our national security architecture must be redefined, and its managers must now do a total reset on how to exterminate this asymmetric warfare. However, political sponsorship of criminality must be abhorred, condemned, and those involved also prosecuted to serve as deterrents.
Okay, so there you go. Well, that's the show today. Don't forget, keep those comments coming through. We want to know what you think about what is going on. Or some of these policies, who knows? You never know, really.
Absolutely.
Well, that's the show. Thank you for watching. We'll see you tomorrow. I'm Chamberlain. So
I'm Kayode Okikelu.
And I'm Ayo Makine. Have a wonderful day.